I know that there's some consternation, and rightfully so, whenever you change the way you do business. So I just wanted to assure the members of this body and those who are interested that we had a commission fully engaged for a good long while with very specific requests from the legislature. They were consensus-driven, so they took into account a lot of research, meta-research, not just specific A research, but meta, which is looking at all research. They came up with best practices from many other states that were doing this, and I think it's right to say, and I agree with the person who said, this is not a conservative or liberal issue. It's how do we do the responsibility the government has been given to hold people accountable and to turn where they can and put them away where we have to. So the Commission came up with some recommendations, and those recommendations, consensus-driven, and consensus means you can't have disagreements. So what came out of there was agreeable, and it came to the legislature. The thing that the legislature does that's different than what the Commission would do, and I just wanted to tell people that as we went through the committees, it became more and more apparent that there are some things that community condemnation is so high on that we're not ready to move in the direction of changing that right now. And so you heard some requests for the Commission to look at how we deal with sex offenses, for example, which is very, very difficult. And what we're doing with DUI, very, very difficult, driving while intoxicated or under the influence. So those issues have yet to be resolved. This bill, what we're doing is going to change the way we do business, but it may not necessarily change the public themselves because, as you know, the courts don't go out and recruit anybody. They get what's coming to them. The police don't go out and recruit people. They have to keep us safe. And so this law is meant to give them tools to do that. It's done differently. The accountability is different, and I get that, and I guess I understand the real concerns about that. But accountability is still accountability. Sitting in jail watching TV takes people away from a situation, but it doesn't hold them necessarily accountable. And so what we're doing here is we're creating processes where those people in the crime that is misdemeanant, behavioral health driven, or the lower felonies, hold them accountable very, very differently because drugs, alcohol, and behavioral health are creating a big concern for us. It was years ago that the biggest population in our jail were violent crimes. They were murderers and the people who did things like burning houses down, things like that. It's flipped, though. The majority now is misdemeanants and behavioral health issues. And so those have to be dealt with. And so years ago, our recidivism rate was turning around so fast at those areas, drugs and alcohol became apparently the issue to deal with. And so this is an attempt to deal with those issues. How do other people deal with them around the country, take a data look at Alaska, see where we're similar in circumstances that we can take proven practice and put them into place. This bill is attempting to do that. But as with all bills, and how many times have we modified a law since I've been in the legislature? Every year we're modifying some law. This is probably a work in progress, there's no doubt about it. This is not purported to be a perfect bill. It's purported to be a way that we can do it better. And so it's going to require eyes and ears on it. So in this bill we have Department of Corrections, Department of Law, the court system, the Commission to do review, report, and recommend back to the legislature, who will get another look at this over and over and over again. And there's no doubt that there will probably be high-profile cases that will show weaknesses in any law that we do. They show weaknesses in the present law. They're certainly going to show weaknesses in the law that we propose here today. So my commitment is to follow it as much as I can. I have an expiration date on my back. That means I have to be reauthorized by a district that I live in, and we'll see. And if I get reauthorized, I'll be back to look at it again. I think this is a continuing work. But I wanted to thank all the department people and all the legislators who took it seriously, who dug into the details, who brought their expertise to bear, and who made suggestions all along the way, including people who had been violently affected by crime themselves. They came to the table and gave us honest solutions. In the bill that we passed today, one particular person who's such an advocate that you know well from Anchorage is persistent in things and got some of the changes in law to satisfy something he sees as a weakness in our law. And so many advocates like that came forward. The Office of Victims' Rights, even though probably does not like this approach, still had a lot of input in, and now we're going to ask them, please continue on that discussion. And so from the courts to the Department of Law to the judges that were involved, to the commission members that were involved, to the hours and hours and hours of work that every staffer in this building has had to put into looking at this, including my own staff, certainly led by Reneva Moss, but really carried as a detail work by Jordan Schilling, and as the member from Anchorage said, his own staff. And so I want to say thank you, but I also wanted to make sure that people understood this is not something I just do. It is something we have to do, and will be continue work to do. So thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say thank you all in this building for your help.